Hello and good morning, I'm Morgan Donner and it is another beautiful day. I was kind of thinking recently, remember that video I made two videos ago with the shenanigan pants? While I was drafting out the pattern, I was kind of thinking, oh, how fun, this is basically like doing a circle skirt, which got me thinking, I've never actually done a circle skirt. And I kind of feel like it's one of the quintessential sort of basic beginner projects that a lot of people do when they're learning to sew, because pattern drafting wise, it's so easy. Sewing wise, it can be a little tricky, but it's like a good level of beginner tricky. I just, for some reason, never did that. So I decided, why not? No time like the present, and I went ahead and made a full circle skirt, which is delightfully swishy and full. I am a big fan, and I guess because I'm a bit of a completionist, I also made a 3/4 circle skirt, a half circle skirt, and a 1/4 circle skirt. I've got to say, I do not recommend that last one. At least I personally, not a very big fan. It's just not very full, but that's fine. It was still really fun though, because now I have so many winter skirts, and it kind of like woke up something in my brain. My introduction to sewing was a lot of rectangular construction. So many historical garments are focused on being made out of rectangular shapes to make the sleeves and the torso and the everything. What if you took that same problem-solving mechanism, making all of your bits out of rectangles, and instead tried it with circles? Can you make a circle dress? Can you make a circle shirt? You can definitely make a pair of circle pants, because that's basically what the shenanigan pants are. They're a half circle that was made into pants. So that one's kind of taken care of. But I still really love the idea of trying to explore using this shape that I just kind of never did before. So you know what? Let's see what we can make. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and try a shirt first. I have some linen-esque, but probably is cotton fabric lying around that I think would make a very lovely shirt. I'm gonna try opening it up, folding it into quarters, folding it some more so that I can just kind of do like a really quick cut to make it a really big circle, as big as I can do on the fabric without having like additional seam lines. And then I think I can actually probably use the leftover bits at the edge of the circle, and I might need to piece them together a little bit to make them a little bigger, but I think I can reuse those to make the neckline facing. And I haven't decided what neckline I'll do just yet. Maybe a circle, maybe like a diamond shape would be kind of cool. Once I've made those, I'll of course need to hem the bottom of the circle so that it's not raw edged fabric anymore. And then for the facing, what I'll do is put it down in the middle of the circle, maybe scooch it forward a little bit, because necklines are usually like a little bit forward on the body. Stitch that kind of in place with whatever neckline I've chosen and flip it inside out, and then tack down the loose edges inside. And then I should have a completed circle with a hole in it for my head, basically. And we'll see how that works. All right, reveal time. This is not the look I was going for. So let's do a little bit more. Maybe if I like make it so that these parts are connected down here, it'll feel a bit more like torso piece and sleeve piece that are separate. I feel kind of like it's a little bit long. Like I could hem the circle up so it's a little bit shorter, both on the sleeves and on the torso area. But before I do that, let me try out some other things first. That is a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit. I kind of want to try like pinning the sleeves up. Let me grab a pin. That's maybe like a tiny bit better, but still a little iffy. And I'm not sure that you could wear pants or skirt like over this, because the sleeves connect to the waist down here. I guess you could. You would just have this weird like bulky part coming out over the top of your waistband, but like it's doable. I feel like something like this could be kind of a cute like beach cover, over a swimsuit. I don't think I have a swimsuit that I can demonstrate that for you. I don't do a lot of swimming. I wonder if I could make a swimsuit. Are there medieval swimsuits? I don't think I have yet achieved something that I would just wear. So, you know, requires a little bit more kind of playing with it. I do think that the big, like, kind of angel sleeves are very fun. It's just not quite right yet. So things I could try next. I could try shortening it. I think that would help with some of the weirdness. I also think that once I wash it, because this fabric is unwashed, that would take out some of the sizing and make it a little bit less stiff. Like, it would be more likely to kind of collapse on itself and just look more shirt-like, maybe. I think I actually want to try to see if I can add holes about here-ish for my arms to go through. So this will become like basically a tank top rather than being connected from waist to sleeves. And maybe I could do like a small set of circles or like half circles to be like cute little fluttery sleeve caps. That could be really fun. Hold up, JK. I did a little bit more futzing with it, and this actually kind of works. I could dance to this. It has kind of like a little bit of Grecian vibes, the statues with all the drapery and goodness. Like, I'm not usually a like bares my arms type person, but I don't know, I kind of dig it, especially with, you know, a skirt in my case, but I think actually pants would work okay as long as you're using really thin fabric. And this is just safety pins. I just safety pinned all the way to the neckline. That's all I did. It looks like a flowy drapey top. Like, you know, the parts hanging down here is definitely unusual, but because the side was sewn up, you know, there's no side boob or anything inappropriate, I guess. Like, not bad, not bad. I still want to experiment with my idea of adding armholes and sleeves to make this like just the torso piece, but I feel like this is worth consideration in the future. So just a very quick mini update with kind of like a sleeveless version of what I was thinking. This is kind of cute. Like, I feel like I've been, you know, seeing some stuff lately about body neutrality, and I feel like this kind of fits that vibe of, you know, it's just loose and flowy and nice, and you're not worried about what shape your body is making underneath, which is kind of neat. But I was also kind of curious how it would look with, like, you know, a belt situation to cinch things in. And it is cute. It is tricky to get all of the peplum ruffles to be kind of even. They're, you know, they're not. And, you know, maybe that's just something you would have to accept with a top like this, unless you specifically trimmed it. Or, you know, just let it be very fun and wild and call it good enough. So this is cute, but I'm going to continue with my idea of adding like a little ruffle sleeves, or should I go for like elbow length, like full sleeve? So I cut out a pair of little half circles from the full width of the same fabric that I had before, and now I've got kind of a pair of cute little half circles. I can either put them on this way so that the kind of half the circle falls over my arm and create. I really like elbow length sleeves. It just is often my preference. I do still kind of like the look from the previous, before I cut the armholes, with like kind of like a slit, an opening going from the top of the arms down. Like, I feel like that could be a really cute orientation. I think I'll try this first. And here we are again with sleeves now. I do like how very unrestrictive this feels, but let's give it another try on with the skirt. And with a skirt, so I actually kind of really like how the length of the sleeves is kind of approximately the same visual length of the top with something on. Like, I don't know, I feel like that just works really nicely. Yeah. I'm curious to see what this looks like once it's been washed. Also, full disclosure, I have managed to spill some coffee near the back neckline here. There's a few chalk marks on this. I think there's mascara right here. Yeah, so it could use a wash anyway. Let's go see if my theory of this looking a little bit different once it's had a wash and dry trip, let's see if that holds true. While this is washing and drying though, do I want to try another shirt or do I want to jump to a new thing? I do kind of want to try some of the thoughts I've had about turning circles into dresses. I have some really pretty pink, red, orange silk that I've been hanging on to because it's so pretty, but I've never found the right project for it. And you know what? I think it would make a really cute dress. It is the next morning and here is my cutout version of the dress that we're going to try making next. It's actually two pieces here. The fabric is only so wide, so in order to have the dress be as long as possible, I didn't cut it all in one circle. Instead, I did two half circles that are then going to get stitched up the middle. I have found that that is kind of one of the downsides of this whole circle patterning business, is I feel like you're much more impacted by the width of whatever fabric you're using than most other types of patterning. Now there are ways to get around that, of course. You could absolutely, you know, make your circle as big as you want and then just piece in additional parts at the edges as needed. Alternatively, you could cut it into slimmer sections so that you can then just sort of put the skirt pieces down normally like you would for most other, you know, dress and skirt pattern pieces. However, that doesn't feel like it's within the spirit of circle skirts and that type of thing. So I'm gonna try as much as possible to stick with doing as little piecing as possible and just using this whole big, you know, section of fabric, because I feel like part of the interesting thing with circle skirts is that you're gonna have the bias hanging a little bit differently than the rest of the fabric, which if you have a patterned fabric, that can be really interesting and cool, and it, you know, just I feel like it's a slightly different thing. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, so next on this, I'm going to go ahead and stitch that center seam, and I think that for the neckline, I'm going to try and do like just a split in the middle of the skirt, and I think that that will actually really nicely create this kind of like V neckline like you see on a lot of summer dresses. And I think I'm going to add some straps, which I know aren't circles, but you know, hey, I also added a waistband to the skirt, so there's going to be some flexibility there, right? Then I'm going to make a bunch of very narrow strips of fabric, some of which are going to become strips for binding the neckline, so that kind of like bias binding, it's going to cover the raw edges here. First I'll sew one edge, then you sort of flip it to the other side so it's covering both edges of the fabric, and then I like to hand sew it in place when it's such a small piece like this area is. You can absolutely machine sew it, I just find it a little easier when it's so small to do it by hand. And then I'll use some more of those narrow widths of fabric to make sort of spaghetti straps for the dress. So to do that, I will take a length of cord and fold it in half, and I'll use the loop end to sort of stitch it in place to the end of the cord. And then I'm going to sew it inside this tube of fabric, making very careful that you don't accidentally catch it while it's in the middle of that tube. You only want the end. Then you're going to stitch all the way to the end and use that same string to pull the fabric inside out on itself. There's lots of really cool tools to do this, but this is handy when you don't have any of them, like me. Once they're completely inside out and ironed flat, I'll go ahead and take those and just stitch them to the dress to make little straps to hold everything up. So this is my I guess dress. It feels a lot like a slip that you would wear like to bed or just kind of around the house, especially with like such little straps. It's definitely not my usual for like, especially in the winter, but just in general, I don't know. I don't tend to go for like little strap things. However, I think that this is kind of cute. It's giving me a vibe that I'm not quite sure how to name. Like, something about this is a very distinctive aesthetic that I'm not sure what to call it. maybe you guys will be able to like put words to what it is that I'm probably thinking of and just not able to name, but like it's very kind of summer casual in a fun, loosey-goosey way. I do want to see what she looks like with a belt, because I think part of the fun of this is that theoretically, you know, you have a lot of fullness coming down below the belt. So like I would think that would make this very cute. All right, well, it has potential. I think maybe it's not quite there yet, but maybe with a bit more fussing I could figure out something. I do feel like this feels like it'd be a really good layering piece. I just have to like take the time to try it on with a bunch of different stuff to figure out what particular layer stuff I want to go with it. Let me add a hat. It is much cuter with a hat. It is still very silly, but I don't know. It's a very cute sort of silly. Anyways, so I didn't say that this video was going to result in super successful pieces. You know, if we get even like semi-usable items that I can sometimes wear, you know, good enough. It's really more about the exploration. So now that I have a very interesting, almost negligee, but also not dress, and I've got, you know, these sleeves, what do I want to make next? Well, we've got a lot of like lightweight, almost like summer-y items with the dress and the top, but we've got a winter skirt, so maybe we should do some sort of like wintry covering, shawl, cape, cloak. Yeah, let me go cut out some circles of wool and see what we can come up with. I decided for the coat layer of this little experiment, I'd go with this really thick marigold wool fabric that I've had lying around. It's so thick that like a coat is just the absolute perfect thing for it. I went ahead and marked out a full circle and then cut it out. From there, I folded it in quarters so that I could cut out a line from the center to one of the edges. That's going to become kind of the opening of the coat. And then I cut out a little circle around the middle to become the neckline. I gave it a really quick try on and it looks like it's basically about the right size, maybe a smidge longer than I need, but I think it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as is. It's always better to cut off more later if you really need to. And I think I'm going to actually do some dressing up of the edges. This material is so thick, it's definitely not gonna fray on me, but I think that adding some trim to the edge makes it just a little bit more sharp and more like it's meant to be a coat. So I went ahead and stitched on a bunch of black trim all around the neck, front, and sort of bottom edge of the circle. And now that those edges are done, and it indeed looks kind of extra like sharp and defined in a way that I think a lot of outerwear just tends to be a little bit more structured. So because this is such a loosey-goosey pattern, I felt like adding a bit of visual structure with design elements would hopefully help. So let's see. Which side is the outside? The inside and the outside aren't really much different, it's just that there's slightly nicer stitching on the outside. I think I'd still like to add just a few more decorative elements. Like, I think this would be really cool with some like very big statement style buttons. I don't even need them to be functional. That's fine. I could make them functional, I suppose, but I'm not gonna worry about it too much, because I think that instead of using like buttons or some other sort of closure in the front here, what I'm gonna do is overlap them and then maybe add like little cuts in the side so that a belt could go over it. I wish I had a really thick belt out of black material. I have this red one, so you know, adding this a nice thick waist to kind of help bring a little bit of definition into what is otherwise a bit of a flowy garment. I think it would be really nice. Can I just put this on backwards? No, but I would still have like a red double. Well, maybe that would at least work for showing you what it might look like. Anyways, so what I will do is cut open a little opening in the side. I probably should bind it as well so that like it matches the things, but maybe later. And then I can try that on. If I decide I don't like the way this looks, then maybe I'll just make my own belt. And then after this guy is all done, I kind of want to experiment with maybe something resembling headwear. Like, or maybe like a scarf would be kind of fun. This I actually think would be really cool if I did like a second circle so that it was like a little like capelet over top, but maybe in the future. For right now, I think I'll stick with like a really kind of the look I already have in my head. For the accessories, I'm going to take some of my smaller stash items, stuff where I have like a yard or less left, and I will take these and cut full circles or half circles depending on what kind of fits the particular scrap the best. While I go ahead and work on getting these cut up, I would like to talk to you really quick about the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is awesome in general for learning new stuff. It's my literal lifeblood. I love learning new things, and Skillshare is absolutely fantastic for that. But more specifically, I've been really into learning about Procreate lately, which is a drawing program. I got a tablet recently, and I've made it kind of my casual New Year's resolution to do a bit of digital drawing every day. Skillshare has tons of classes on Procreate, thank goodness, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like Intro to Procreate by Brooke Glazer, she has a ton of classes on that particular drawing program. But what's really cool is that she goes back and keeps it up to date. So lots of programs will add new features or move things around from year to year, and she goes back and makes sure that those intro courses are still up to date and still make sense. And that's really, really awesome. Whether you're interested in drawing programs or music or web design or anything else under the sun, Skillshare is going to have something that you're going to enjoy learning about, and the first 1,000 people that use my link in the description are going to get the first month free, so absolutely check it out. I think you guys will enjoy it. Now that I've cut out several of the potential accessories, let's go ahead and put on the base layers and then try them all out. So starting off with this blue piece, it can be worn as a shawl, maybe even belted as a sort of top of sorts. This green one is very similar, but maybe a little smaller, and I feel like it works really nicely as a scarf. Here's another green one that is not cut, it's just a full circle, and I think this one looked really nice with like a big heavy pin kind of wrapped around your shoulders. Alternatively, you can sort of pick up the top half of the circle and flip it up over your head to make like a little hood. And you can maybe futz with the pin placement until you get the look, the drape, the proportions that you're after, until you've achieved, you know, peak green riding hood aesthetic. Instead of a pin though, you could also use a belt, which looks pretty dang cute. And if you put that top back down, the hood down, you get kind of like a statement collar effect, which makes me feel a little bit like a cottagecore goes corporate Poison Ivy. I also took a full circle of the same fabric as the shirt and folded it in half and then folded an edge to get like a bit of a brim, and that makes a very nice bandana-esque piece of headwear, just, you know, without the pointy part in the back. Mine's long enough that I can also take some of that excess fabric and tuck it in at the back to get more of a structured look. One of the fun things about all this is realizing just how adjustable some of the different pieces are. You can wear the top with some gathering or tuck it smooth. You can blouse it for a puffy look or untuck it completely for a very relaxed vibe. You can also probably even play around with tying knots in the excess fabric to switch up the fit and the silhouette. And then of course adding a belt is very nice for that fun peplum look again. A quick tip about this one specifically, if you make something that is almost but not quite identical on the front and the back, add a little bit of stitching to the center back of the neck. That made it so much easier for me to figure out which way I'm supposed to put it on. I'm also surprisingly happy with the coat. This is definitely not my favorite color, but the black accents, I think, give it a sharpness that make me like it much more than I would otherwise. I also made a circle out of this super sheer thin fabric that works beautifully as a very kind of nice little jaunty scarf, or again you can tie it about your head to get a cute little bandana type effect. My least favorite out of all of this, unfortunately, is the slip dress. There's something about it that I just don't love. I think I should keep working on it. I kind of like the way it looks better when I can't see the straps, so maybe that's the issue. I tried cutting the straps so that I could tie it a little bit higher, and I both like it more and don't at the same time. It is really dang cute with a straw hat though. Really quick aside, I made this half circle vest cape thing at the last minute, and I think I'd like to play with this more. It has a very fun look to it. Oh my goodness gracious, this was so stinking much fun. It reminds me so much of like art classes I've taken where they give you some kind of limitation, you know, you can only use this color, or here's some aluminum and cardboard tubes, I don't know, make something happen. Like, there's something so fun about working with a limitation, with a constraint, that I don't know, I feel like it exercises a type of like creative spot in your brain that I just really, really appreciated. This was a lot of fun. Highly recommend. I had several more ideas for things that I wanted to do, including another dress design that I think would work better than the one that I tried to do. You know, and that's part of the fun as well, is that I tried several things that some worked surprisingly well and some worked not as well, and that's okay too. But oh my gosh, I didn't even show you guys the best part. One second. So if you take a quarter circle and sew the straight edges together, you get a little gnome hat, which is very cute. It's very silly, but it's very cute. Also, if you make it out of like a looser fabric, then you get kind of like a, what was his name? Mr. Smee, I think, in Peter Pan. Did he have a kind of like a pointy floppy hat? Maybe I'm thinking somebody else. But anyways, yeah, it's fun. Like, I feel like an even floppier material might be even better for like maximum, you know, Mr. Scrooge lounging about his house sort of vibes. Yeah. Yes. Highly recommend you guys try something similar. You know, find something that you have to work around in order to make things, see what you come up with. Any hoodle, thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thank you guys for watching. See you later.